Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 2, DraftKings Picks, plus the winner of the $500 draw coming up in a little bit. Not going to do that off the top. Do it sometime during the show, although the winner will know that they're the winner, I think. Although I haven't contacted them yet. I have the winner pulled. But anyway, one of you won $500, and we'll be doing more giveaways throughout the course of the season. The Listeners League is full, so better luck next week. We filled the 3,000 spots. Maybe they will make it bigger for us, make it 3,500 spots this week. So keep up that same fervor of getting into the rake-free Listeners League. RunTheSims.com/Mayo will get you 10% off all of the tools. And there's a brand new prop tool. Tambo's in the studio, by the way, from ShipItNation.com. Code Mayo to get 10% off at ShipItNation.
That's right.
As well, where you can get, well, your guys' Showdown show did really well.
Yep.
On Thursday. That's free on Mayo Media Network. But if you want the rest of the Showdown shows and all the other content, that's behind the paywall at ShipItNation.
Yeah, we got all the free shows on the YouTube channel. So go youtube.com/@ShipItNation. We got the other show, but we did the Thursday Night Football show on the Mayo Media Network, sponsored by Run the Sims. So using that tool, showing it off, was pretty interesting stuff. Just last night, breaking it down, even without going to the pro features, you can still do a lot with it. And I think people were amazed that you can actually change market shares, change target shares. You can change whatever you want. It reminds me of Fantasy National when we're talking golf. So great little tool you can get if you guys don't have it already.
All right, so yeah, that's the stuff that you should go buy. And then you should buy some DraftKings lineups and maybe listen to us, listen to you more than listen to me. But what are you thinking for this week? It's a overreaction week into week 2. Usually a good time, like we talk about leverage every week. You want to have leverage on the field. But it does feel to me like week 2 is a perfect time to gain a ton of leverage.
Yeah, it's twofold, right? Obviously, people are going to overreact to some of the stuff they saw in week 1. That leaves other plays wide open, even within the same spots and games. I think that's one note I'll make first, is just you don't have to overreact completely to the overreaction in that by saying, like, you can still stay in the same spot maybe, but just don't go to the same plays in that game. We'll talk about it when we get to some of the others. It's just, people, of course that game hit, but it'll end up being with plays that people weren't on. That's what you have to look at for there. And then also remember, a lot of these guys that did something in week 1 got the giant price bump this week. So that matters as well. Not the same value as week 1 when you have since the end of July to have the pricing up on DraftKings.
Oh, for sure. So let's start this off. I'm going to run The Sims right now. Sim Runner Pro, too, if you want the simulations on simulations. Most people don't need that.
It's great to have.
It's awesome to have, but it's very expensive. Like, if you're not playing volume on DraftKings, it's probably a tool you don't need.
And you want to be watching the tutorials. Justin did some great ones out there where you can actually figure it out pretty quickly and do it that way. It's easy to use, but I just think a lot of people that just say, oh, do I need this? Do I not? They don't know it. They don't go watch it. You got to put the time in. You can't just buy this, press submit, and be good to go, just like optimizers.
Yeah, I mean, there is an optimizer,
right?
But that's not extra money. That's just at runthesims.com/mail. Let's talk about optimals then. I have the players who appear in the optimal lineup the most. They're each above 50% of the time this week, or 15% of the time, sorry. And one of them is only projected 8% owned at the moment. So there's 3 running backs, 1 wide receiver, and 1 quarterback inside the top 5 optimals. Would you like to guess them?
Josh Allen.
He is number 5.
So that's the quarterback. Mm-hmm. For the running backs, what do we got here? Is Rachaad White?
Rachaad White is not. He is number 11 in the optimals.
Okay, so he's up there still. What about CMC?
CMC is number 1.
Yeah. All right.
So you got 1 and 5.
Who else do we?
Well, if you got Josh Allen as your quarterback and there's 1 receiver in there.
Diggs.
Diggs is number 4.
Yeah. Just trying to put some of these in as we go. You said 2 more running backs then?
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs?
No, it's James Cook is number 2.
Wow.
So
Stack it up.
The optimizer is telling you the stack this week is Allen, Diggs, and Cook, which is kind of crazy to think about. And the highest projected Vegas guy is Devontae Adams, but he's at like 21 in the optimals. The other one is Travis Etienne, which I think is actually quite a nice pivot because everyone's going to want to use Lawrence. And very few, I think, will use Lawrence and Etienne in the same lineup.
That, and so 2 things actually we can talk about here just within the first segment because it was what I was just mentioning. So Etienne, we'll see what he gets to in ownership. Right now it doesn't look like it's too high.
It says 8 right now.
Right, that's what I see as well. So, the Ridley stuff from last week and this game, and everyone knows to go here, but now Kelsey is likely to be back, and you got Trevor Lawrence. Oh, is Zay played more snaps than Christian Kirk? Like, people are looking all around here, and the answer may just be Etienne Jr., so where you can plug him in, and you're in the same spot, in the same game, run it that way. The other part is the Buffalo side. And you and I talked pre-show on this. We knew this was going to be popular. We know it's going to make sense. People say there's no way Josh Allen can play that bad again. And I agree. But, you still have to find the right plays within it. And it's James Cook and Diggs popping. And then you could see something like Gabe Davis and Kincaid. And that actually brings you value within that quarterback, and you could do it that way. So I just think there is interesting ways to look at these spots where you don't have to go completely away from them.
Let's talk about what it spit out as the optimal lineup, because I think it's kind of hilarious.
Okay, just one sec. Let's start it. Where are we at here?
Josh Allen is the quarterback. Rashad White and Christian McCaffrey are the running backs. So that's not bad. Two good plays.
I think that's fine.
Chris Godwin is one of the receivers. You have 2 Tampa guys in this optimal lineup.
Okay.
Tutu Atwell is one of the other receivers against San Francisco. So a nice little correlation. You don't even know if it tried to do that with Christian McCaffrey. The other wide receiver is Diggs.
Okay.
The tight end is Dalton Kincaid. And the flex is Dawson Knox.
Interesting.
So it's a complete Bills onslaught. And the defense is Arizona, which I assume is going to be, I don't know what I find it very hard to project ownership on defenses. Unless it's like the one defense everyone is playing, they'll likely be like 15, 16, 17%. After that, I think it's a crapshoot every week.
Last week, obviously, we had Washington, which is totally
Washington
different story.
was the one.
So that was the one we knew last week. That's why this week, I think you're going to see spread out at least a little bit. There's some other ones that people can make cases for. We go back to deciding that. But yeah, this one here looks pretty good.
How many points does it project for? I'm curious your projections versus mine.
Right now, I have it at 119.5.
See, ours have it at 131.
Okay.
So Run the Sims loves the Bills and thinks the Bills are going to score 80 billion points this week.
Yeah, it could just be a projection set too, where some are projecting everybody higher, so it works like that. But we'll see. But I don't think, the double tight end this week I would look at would be like an Ingram Kelsey or something like that. I think is where I'd be at, or a Irv Smith Jr., Mark Andrews. Not that I'm advocating this is the way to go, but I just think last year we saw this so much more. I know that everyone just says, oh, you can never play 2 tight ends. The rules say it forever. It's been this way. It's true, but the sample size is 4 or 5 years of going back and people actually studying the Million Maker winners. And then on top of it, last year with this pricing change, you do get really good tight ends at these cheap price tags.
Oh, for sure. And even when I'm thinking about Millionaire Maker, I'm thinking about less and less about the Millionaire Maker every single week that we do this show over the past 8 years, because I don't even play in it anymore.
Right.
I'm thinking about it in terms of smaller GPPs with 1,000 people, 700 people, 500 people, where we don't have to get as crazy. But I actually was listening to Lowell's with Pete and Brian, and Levitan and Leone were on. Leone made a comment, and it just kind of stuck with me a little bit. It was just like this, I think they were talking about some of the Sims, and Sims identifying that sometimes in these smaller field GPPs, that sometimes the onslaught stack is the way to go. And I can kind of attest to that. Both times I finished inside the top 5 in the 150 3 times last year, and every time it was with it was either with a 3-1 or a 3-2 onslaught.
Well, you only build those now. Your five-man game stacks are your favorite. So
they are, but I had it last week until Tua and Hill went off. I was second in the King of the Beach qualifier, and I was all right, and I had to make a late swap, which I wasn't going to win if I didn't make the late swap. I didn't win anyway, but
right, it's worth the swap.
Yeah, I had Mostert in, and I had to switch to Herbert because I knew the guy in front of me had Mostert. It's all right, who's the next running back I can go to switch this off and give myself at least an opportunity to try to win this? But then all of a sudden, a team that was in last place going into the late set of games, they had Tua, Hill. I don't think they had Smythe.
Probably had Eckler in
there.
They
had
too.
Eckler on the other side.
Yeah.
They won by 50 points.
Yeah, even guys that had Mostert in there who did nothing really, but it was still just because they built their game stack out that way. I think it was Irby won the Mega Million Maker, and he had both running backs with Tua and Tyreek, but it allowed you to get more value in some of the other plays. I think he had Jefferson in there, a couple other options. But to your point, to Leone's point, yeah, definitely that's the way to do it, because when you're in the smaller fields,
you can make a mistake.
You can make the mistake in the large field where you're adding 2 extra guys from the game, unless you get my buddy Hoop, who, by the way, is this has got the game on the slate against Seattle Detroit from last year. Unless you're getting that 47-45 game, then somebody's gonna have this guy over this guy somewhere within the 200,000-300,000 lineups that are in that tournament. In these smaller field ones, you just need that game to go off, and one guy might only have the 8 points, but the others have the 20 to 30, and you kind of built them in as a segment, and you just need less to go your way.
Exactly, and that's kind of the idea that I've had for these smaller GPPs was just, listen, I'm going to make mistakes. This is going to happen. So I've now identified the type of tournaments that I want to play in where making mistakes is okay. But if I can identify the right game, I don't even need to be perfect within that game if I'm taking 4 or 5 guys. I basically need 3 of them to go off. And the other 2 to do something.
That's all.
Like you said, like 9 points for Mustard is fine when the other guys score 40.
Yeah, and then just going back to it, because we were talking about this games, like you were kind of talking about onslaughts, and that's what that optimal ended up being, was those 4 bills and breaking it down. That's the other thing you can do, like even within it, if you don't like having the 2 tight ends both from Buffalo, or you're like, you know what, I think Diggs' price is inflated. It's not going to be the guy here. You could do something like drop Diggs to a Devontae Adams to get a run back if you wanted, and you still have a pretty good stack here, and then you can run out with some other value. I just think that's where people just don't look at it enough. Sometimes you can just take these optimal style lineups and find out how you flip the switch. Last week, Eckler ended up being one of the higher owned expensive backs. A lot of people were just playing cheaper backs, but we knew Tyreek was popular, but guess what? Tua was 5%. So when you fill that in to balance that ownership of that, it's like not like someone did something that crazy. They just put the quarterback with the guy that would drag along the 50 points or 47.9 or whatever it was Tyreek Hill puts up. So sometimes it's not making the big changes, just some of the tiny changes to make it more of a tournament style lineup.
All right, so punch this one in because this is the one that I want to work off of this week. Brock Purdy as the quarterback with Christian McCaffrey as a running back and James Conner as a running back.
Okay.
Tutu Atwell, Chris Godwin, and Zay Jones.
Godwin, Zay Jones.
Dawson Knox as the tight end. What's Dawson Knox's price this week?
$3,100.
Okay, so that's why. Travis Kelce is the flex.
We said Knox and then Kelce, yeah.
And the Commanders' defense.
And how much are they? $3,100.
So let's work off this lineup to kind of do what you said and adjust it to maybe something that we can use. Because, I mean, this lineup's, I bet you it projects well, but...
It still projects pretty close, only about 5 points less than the previous.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, too, is like I already think...
It's funny. It's exactly 5 points less than the previous
That's
one.
what I say. Just different projection sets, not necessarily projecting certain players for more. It's like some sets have a higher projection overall versus the others, so that's fine. But I think here... again, where did you get this from? You just made this up off the top of your head?
No, I honestly just took the stock projections and pressed run the Sims. And,
Okay,
and
another
spit
one
out
like
the
that.
top 5 lineups.
So yeah,
and this is one of them.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because this one already, you're pretty much... You're off the board quite a bit here. Like Dawson Knox wouldn't be the popular piece there when we get to tight end. There's so many options. Obviously, he will fit into those game stacks, but having him as the one-off, having a double tight end with Kelce, going Brock Purdy with CMC, I think most will go Brock Purdy with definitely Debo, who we'll get to. He's going to be popular this week for sure.
I'm kind of, not that Debo can't have a great game, but if you've been betting on Debo since McCaffrey arrived in San Francisco, you've just lost all your fucking money.
What's it been like? Let me go back and check some of this stuff just to see.
It hasn't been good.
It really hasn't.
I mean, we talked about this going into last year too, as it pertained to like season-long fantasy. But so much of his value 2 years ago was derived from the fact he was getting 8 to 9 carries a game and scoring a touchdown on a carry every single game. Yeah. So you take away 6 of those carries and the touchdown, you're not doing.
It's been very bad.
You're like 5 for 55 every week.
Pretty crazy, yeah. And that's the other thing too. I think is interesting here is like what happens is this is where I think this can happen, at least, where people say, oh, it was Ayuk last week. There's no way he gets 2 again. It's Debo versus zone. This is where he just rips them up. This is going to be the thing. And then everyone ends up on Debo. And again, the overreaction is that Ayuk can't do it again, or Purdy wouldn't go back to the guy that just hooked him up for 2 touchdowns last week, or whatever you want to think. The point is it could happen, or it could just end up being Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. And it's just 2 guys that, sort of balance it out with the ownership, because Purdy can't be very popular at 5,700. If he gets to 5 to 7%, that's whatever. It's still spread out enough.
Well, if we talk about quarterbacks, let's talk about the ownership at quarterback right now. And again, this is Friday. Stuff changes over the weekend. All of a sudden, there's a random injury, and everyone just piles onto a stack because it opens up supreme value. Do we know if Jacoby Myers is playing? He's not, right?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I think it was more closer to the side of doubtful, it looks like. But we'll wait and see. Obviously, had a huge week last week, but...
So the top 4 that I'm seeing right now, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence, Mahomes.
Allen, Herbert, Lawrence. I got Allen, Lawrence, and then I guess I had Burrow a little higher, I think, because the other pieces look so good. Like
I have Burrow at 5.
Okay, so we're close enough there, yeah.
And at running back, we're looking at Connor, Jacobs, McCaffrey, James Cook, and Montgomery. I
got Montgomery, Rashad White up there, so we're similar on some of those. One other guy. What about Jared Goff? Where do you have him at?
He was right. He was the same as Joe Burrow, number 6. So tied for 5th.
There you go. That's you're seeing how I'm seeing it. So
I mean, the move is just straight up, if you're going to build one of these lineups, that don't use Goff, use Geno, and use Lockett and Metcalf. Like, that's just intuitively what I would be doing in that game. If everyone is just going to take how can Goff be that popular, but also Montgomery can be that popular?
it's just not really. I don't think neither of that. But I think Montgomery's, let's say he comes in currently 15 to 17% or something like that.
That's too much.
Sure, and also there's more things to be said here. I'll go to in a second. But the Goff thing, no quarterback is really right now. Yes, it looks like Allen.
I have him at 12.
Yeah, but even let's say he gets more steam than that. He goes 12 to 15 range and just call it that. That's fine. Get him up to 15, 16. That's whatever. Like, he's the chalky quarterback. There's other ways you can go about it. You can do different things. You can play the other side. You can do so many things with him already. Like I said, you can build Gabe Davis lineups. Gabe Davis Knox, Gabe Davis Kincaid, him and just one receiver. Because what if he, goes like Hurts last night and just runs it in a bunch and he doesn't have a Swift, or it's him and James Cook or something is the Swift. But one thing about Detroit, Montgomery, I think you mentioned this pre-show as well, you could play him with the Detroit defense. Last week, Washington defense still came through, got 11 points, but you could play him with Brian Robinson. No one played him compared to the same guy at 5,100 who was Jamal Williams, and you could just play Brian Robinson as a way to get different with that stack. Also, the Jahmyr Gibbs conversation after last night, Swift comes through, gets the job done, looks like a big, quote-unquote, big mistake for Detroit. They went out and got this guy Gibbs instead, all this other stuff. Did they need him? Who knows? But let's see. Maybe he's the guy this week they give more touches to and more things to try and prove a point.
How come no other team runs the unstoppable Philly play?
I don't know. People were complaining about it again last night.
I mean, I get why it is legitimately unstoppable. They're going to get their 1 or 2 yards every single time. But you would think there'd be another team be like, no one can stop that play. Let's run that play.
Yeah, more teams will catch on. But it is funny. Like, people are begging for the Swift. Like, oh, Swift got screwed. No, they're never running another play when they can just do that every single time and get it. There's just no point. So he didn't. He should have got in when he was there before, but he didn't. So it's Hurts instead.
Keep an eye on Puka this week too, because he didn't practice on Thursday.
Yeah, we're watching him. We're watching Hopkins.
Yeah.
And these things open up just value pieces. Obviously, Atwell still got a lot of the job done last week. Everyone loved Higbee last week, but now they don't. He's another guy you could go to if you want to play within that game. I actually have no problem with it. I think that game could be a game that you just stack up. We saw the other side of it here that we were just talking about.
I really like San Francisco this week.
Yeah.
I just think they score 1 billion points against the Rams because they tend to score 1 billion points against the Rams every single time. And this is the worst iteration of the Rams they've faced in a long time. So we'll see how that goes. And they're all healthy, which is nice. It's just hard to pick the right pieces. It's a lot like the Bills. Like, you can say it's going to be Allen and Diggs, but it might not be.
Oh, yeah. I definitely don't agree with that one as much as, like, you can go a bunch of different ways with Allen. That's the one where people get pissed off. Like, oh, I'm not playing Allen at that ownership, and Diggs up to 8K and all this stuff. There's so many things you can do. It's like, then they'll be pissed off when Allen comes through with Gabe Davis and Kincaid or Knox and be like, oh, of course that game got there. Those chalk idiots. It's like, no, they played Allen as the and he's way less owned than Tyreek last week, but their pieces that are less owned are like last week it was Tua. This week it'll be, guys like Kincaid, Knox, Davis, some of those dudes. So I think that the other thing is about that San Francisco thing, that line just really makes me think, and I don't spend a lot of time on this stuff, but almost 8 points on the road. It's either like 40-0 or it's like 35-24, and they still cover it, but it's close or something like that. You know what I mean? Where I could see it that way too.
Just San Francisco under Shanahan, like Shanahan versus McVay has just been Team Shanahan. They just kill them every time.
I like the onslaught there. Like you said, we had it earlier where it was already giving us Purdy and McCaffrey, but you could go further with that.
Let's go back to that lineup. We have Purdy and McCaffrey, and we don't have any of the pass catchers outside of, I guess, McCaffrey in this lineup. Would you feel comfortable playing Purdy with McCaffrey?
Yes.
Okay.
He can just check it down to him, and then McCaffrey can go for 80 to the house. There you go. Boom. That helps both them right out of the gate.
So who else do we want to put in this? It's not that I'm anti-Debo, but I think that he is the worst.
It would just be Ayuk.
I think that Ayuk would be the play. He's only $5,800. We can take Godwin out. Easily sub in Ayuk.
That's what I did.
And now we have $200 left anyway.
Atwell's already fine, and he gets even better if Nakua ends up not playing for whatever reason. So
I don't love him.
I think he's fine though. I'm just saying it's fine to go to. There's other plays here, but
I would rather take Knox out and put Higbee in.
Sure. So take out Atwell and Knox, and let's put Higbee.
So the problem now is we only have $3,400 for a receiver. Do we have like some jabroni receiver I can play?
We got to look at it for a second. Let me just see this thing.
Who's the biggest jabroni I can play at receiver this week? Zay Jones projects to be the best points per dollar player. Debo second, great. Puka 2-2. Yeah, no one's really. There's no like supreme value play this week.
Okay, but here's the thing. So who do we got in here? I want to take out Washington. This is just to find a little more money and go back. It already liked Arizona before, but now it likes Connor. Why not just put the two together? You know what I mean?
Do you like Connor?
I think he's fine. Yeah, actually, there was the tidbits came out this week at Toe Tag and Tambo on X. Now we call it, but I guess Twitter, whatever you want to do with it. But there was some good ones in there on James Conner. And now what I'm saying is this is just another thing, Pat. People some like Arizona D, but I don't see as much on both of them together. So why not just pair them up if you're going to go that route?
So the Cardinals are $2,600. Where are the Lions? Lions are 3,000. I like that a lot. That's just the defense that I want to play. I'm not playing the Geno side of the ball, but I think that would be the smart way to do it if you're going to stack that game up with Amon-Ra. But I think that just using Lions D is the way you want to
do. Do you like Montgomery or Gibbs or either?
No.
I just don't understand. I think if Detroit D pounds them, the running backs get way more carries.
I like Amon-Ra, and I just think they're going to run it through him. And I think that it's going to be hard to get either Gibbs or Montgomery right.
I'm going to be low on money if Amon-Ra breaks the slate again here. There's just too many other guys around him, and I just think, especially in your scenario where the D gets involved, like what does the optimal right now? Go to back to the Sims for a second. Where does it have Montgomery at in the running back Sims?
In terms of
where's he ranked? Yeah,
in the optimal rate.
Yeah.
He comes in at 9.8%.
And so where is that relative to the field? Like, is he like the fifth best running back in the
1,
Sims?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth.
He's
just like, if Montgomery is $5,800 and it doesn't look like we're getting Aaron Jones, like why wouldn't you just play AJ Dillon?
Yeah, you could. I'm just going with your
and right now, I'm like Montgomery projects to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. Dillon projects somehow to be one of the lowest owned on this. I don't like. Do people think that Aaron Jones is playing? Because it doesn't look like he's playing.
Let me see Dillon right now too. Dillon is $5,900.
Yeah, so he's $100 more.
Yeah, it's a pivot. I'm just saying, I mean, like, I just go off the theory and the thought process is that Montgomery's bad chalk or something. Someone will say, I just don't think it's him, or it could be Gibbs, or I think it's through the air or whatever. But if you're in on Detroit D, you don't have to do this correlation. This is so old school. That correlation doesn't even, there's myths to it and everything. I'm just saying, if you're saying this, if I was on Run the Sims and I was saying Detroit is going to be the defense this week that I like, I'm probably bumping up rush share to them. Because then I think they're going to just run the ball. What do you think they want to do? Campbell wants to run the ball anyway.
So now
it's going to give you more pump to that, and that would make more sense to go from right now. What I was looking at is it's actually I think the exact same. Pat, was it? I think it's $6,200 for Connor, and then $2,600 for Arizona. Right?
Yeah.
You come down to $5,800 up to $3,000. That's your other. That's a 2v2. That any lineup that has those two can have that two instead. So just to note it, right? Just to say that. Also, if you think people are stacking up with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra and all this other stuff, what better way to get, still be in this game, but set it off and be a little bit different. So I'm fine with either. I think the other thing about Arizona that's interesting is I don't have like high hopes for them or anything. They're, underdogs at home. They're terrible. But, New York Giants did not look very good last week. I know it's the Dallas D. It's a totally separate topic or conversation, but I do think that's something there as well. But either way, you can plug in whatever you want after the fact. They're both the same price.
Well, let's take Kelsey out of this lineup. He was in as the flex, so that leaves me right now. I have Lions D, and I put A.J. Dillon in at running back. So I got Purdy, Ayuk, McCaffrey. and Higbee as my Rams guy at tight end. So I have $5,700 each for a wide receiver and a flex right now. How do you think that this should play out? Because if I look at the running backs, or look at the wide receiver, and I kind of go into that price range, like Zay Jones is $4,700. That's a pretty good price. Mm-hmm. But these like mid 5 guys don't project out well in terms of points per dollar outside of Ayuk and Debo, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and we got the nice stack there already. Like, I do like that stack the way we've set it up. So,
like, if Hopkins sits, Nick Westbrook-Ikena?
No, Burks or Chig. Chig was really good last week. He missed him completely on 50-yard touchdown.
He misses. That's what he does.
That's the problem.
But Westbrook-Ikena, like, if Hopkins sits, like, he did more than Treylon Burks did last week. He was more involved. He ran more routes. He had more targets. And for whatever, like, Burks sat, he's not hurt, but he did miss a day of practice this week because of a personal issue. I have no idea what that is. But
he also missed beforehand last week. Like, Burks was something coming in. So I wonder, again, I don't know if it's an overreaction to Westbrook's workload versus his, but I'm saying he also was not 100%, I don't think, coming into the week 1. So who knows how that led to things. But I actually do think Chig is interesting this week at tight end. He's also very cheap, and he's in that same price range as Kincaid and all the other guys like Musgrave, Knox, all those ones that are in that price range, he fits in there as well.
I have him at 7% ownership. It seems like people do want to go to Chig right now.
Well, they will, and it's going to go up because it's almost like the situation last week. If Hopkins ends up out, because I think it was yesterday in practice where he...
Yeah, two days in a row he hasn't practiced.
Yeah, so I mean, that's not looking great, but we'll see how that shakes out. What about, I know we have Higbee in this lineup, but what about Laporta? If you aren't playing Montgomery, we've seen this work plenty of times where like everyone's on the running back and it ends up being the tight end.
Who catches like 3 touchdowns or something stupid.
Maybe if it's 1 or 2, but it's still like at that price point and just with everybody else, it looks like it wants to be below that. Because I think he was, 3,900 here?
Yeah, he's 3,900.
And you've got... I guess we already have Higbee. There's not that much more, but I guess when you say like Chig, you got Kincaid, Musgrave, Irv Smith Jr., and Knox, those 5 probably all can get some love down there. And you could go to a guy like Laporta and just get Montgomery out of your life.
I'm just trying to think of where I want to go with this. Like in terms because if I have a wide receiver and a flex left and I have 5,700, like there are decent, like Zay Flowers is $5,000. Like that's not horrible as like a one-off. Like if that's what I need to fill out my lineup. So I'm not too. The pay up running back. Like I have McCaffrey in this lineup already, but if I'm going to try to pay up again for another spot, I mean, we haven't even talked about Joshua Kelly yet.
Yeah,
Kelly is an even $5,000. If Eckler sits, which it's starting to look like he's not going to play, how popular do you think he gets?
He's going to be popular. Yeah.
Should he be super popular at 5,000?
That's debatable, but
okay.
Obviously the spot is good. The game, I mean, it's going up against Tennessee. I think people are going to like. Again, not as much as these other games, but I think being able to go to those pieces in there, they'll start to find it. And what you would see, for example, the very obvious, what you just said, Kelly, Chig, boom, there's your little secondary stack I can get in. Because I don't think people are going to trust Mike Williams after last week. The Tennessee side, it's easy to stack up, but are people going to play Tannehill with Chig or one of Burks or Westbrook, Ikine? Like, I don't know there, so we'd have to see. But Kelly would pick up steam for sure, obviously, right away once that happens, the obvious point. But, it's definitely true.
I threw in Josh Downs as a one-off. $3,400 is my third wide receiver, for this process. That gives me $8,000 for my flex.
Okay, so Downs we're plugging in.
So the only guy that I can't have right now is Eckler, who might not even be playing. I can have basically anyone else on the slate.
So we can switch that to whatever we want. I'm just going to change it back here because I had one other thing I was looking at.
Bijan? Then I have A.J. Dillon and Bijan in the same lineup?
No, I think, again, you got Diggs, you got Jamar Chase, you got your, lots of options there, actually, really, depending on what you're doing. But we already have McCaffrey, so who's the other guy that I'm missing here? Oh, Higbee.
If Brandon Cook sits, do you like Michael Gallup at all? Or do we just not play receivers against the Jets?
Probably just not play them. I think you could just go Pollard. Even he's another guy. He's 7,500, priced up a little bit this week, but doesn't look like anything else is coming with it for ownership.
I kind of like Pollard
or anything. He had a decent game last week, solid attempts, good targets. See what happens this week. But last week got out of hand too, so he could play even more. I know this game could get out of hand too, actually, with the Dallas D going up against Zach Wilson, but I think that he'd be fine at 7,500.
Well, we have ETN projected pretty well. I mean, I don't love playing 2 Jags in my lineup, especially with no Chiefs coming back the other way. But we can kind of finagle this around, get rid of Lions D, go up to Cowboys D at $4,000, and then put in ETN as the flex at 69.
Cowboys D, and then who do you have in at running back right now?
McCaffrey, Dillon, and ETN.
Oh yeah, you went to Dillon. That's right. Yeah, Dillon. Let's see how this one projects. ETN.
Probably not great.
It's not bad. About 4 or 5 points less.
So it's the 49ers stack with 2 Jags and Dillon and ETN as the running backs with Josh Downs as the paydown. But then you get the Cowboys D. Like this, I don't want to say it's a generational wealth spot for Cowboys defense, but this sounds pretty good. Yeah. Like they can't block and they have Zach Wilson as their quarterback. They're going to try to run as much as possible, but eventually you can't run every time. They
definitely have the ceiling wise, they're the team here. Like they can just go off, but you're going to pay for it. 4,000. I don't think this is a slate where many can do that because it's not week 1. We don't have the same values on the slate that we had. There's lots of values popping up and going to, but that's 2 things. 1, it's hard to get to the expensive D that way. And 2, to your point, what we talked about off the top of the show, these 2 tight end lineups, if there's not enough of these wide receivers that pop in and there's not enough good running backs that pop in, then people end up, especially in these smaller field things, like you were talking about, where you can just go with the 2 tight ends to then let the rest of it flow together.
Yeah, see, I like the lineup with the Lions D and saving the $1,000 and probably playing Pollard instead of the Cowboys defense a little bit better. But projected owned defenses right now: Cardinals, Cowboys, Buccaneers, 1, 2, 3.
Cardinals, Cowboys, Buccaneers.
So you have 4,000, 3,200, and 2,600.
Yeah, see, the Cardinals I would probably lean off the most. The
I
other
would
two
too.
I'd feel fine with because there's like a top down, like an up and down, but it's hard to get to Dallas here. So
Like the Giants are $3,800. Some of the like higher end defenses, because usually I just completely avoid them because I don't think the spot is actually all that great. They just happen to be good defenses. But some of these projected high defenses this week, like Broncos, and not so much the Broncos. I mean, maybe the Broncos. Washington couldn't stop Arizona's pass rush last week, and the Broncos have a better pass rush than the Cardinals do. But like the Giants and the Cowboys being up there, I think the Giants are going to be in the backfield all day against Arizona.
yeah, I think so too. I had a couple others tagged here. One was Green Bay, but the only problem is Atlanta doesn't throw it enough, as we saw last week. So you may not get those opportunities, but obviously scrambling around, and when it does get thrown, there is opportunity there. That would go with your Dillon play if you wanted to match it up. Tampa Bay versus Fields, I think is fine.
Just stream against Fields?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Honestly, it's just the way it goes. Like he can run all over you, but he also can make a ton of mistakes. And then the cheap one I had down here was actually Tennessee that I liked.
Would you rather play the Titans or play the Raiders?
I would like the Titans.
Because the Raiders might just backdoor their way into 3 turnovers against Josh Allen at this point.
Yeah, it is crazy. So I couldn't get this one into the tidbits, but somebody had it up there. It's like it's not just last week. You just only remember it because it's week 1 and because you haven't been watching or paying attention to football for a while. It's like 3 of his last 4 games. It's been a turnover machine. It's just wild. I just never, you don't remember it or you don't think of it. You just let things flow and go and just move on with it and keep rolling. But that was something that stood out to me. So maybe that could be something here. That would be huge leverage on this slate because obviously Josh Allen, the most popular quarterback, leading to those stacks, leading to everything that goes on there. So I kind of like, at least from that angle, that would be interesting. But I still have Tennessee there. I'm just deciding if I have any interest in Derrick Henry or what, because if Tennessee's going against them, I like it because it leverages, especially if Josh Kelly becomes popular. You're just playing the defense against him. A lot of lineups will have Josh Kelly at that point, and you'll just have a defense against it. Those lineups won't be paired. So that would be interesting, but then I don't know what else you do. Would you ever consider this? Let me ask you this one because it popped up. Stacking Tennessee.
Tannehill, Chig, and Burks?
Or if whoever you like, I'm just saying, or it could just be Tannehill, Chig as a way to do it. And then
I don't like that.
Because if Kelly is going to be popular and Chig is going to be popular.
I get it, but I think people are playing. If people are doing Chig and Kelly together, I don't feel like people in those lineups think that those two are going to break the slate, that they're just going to be points per dollar values, but it opens up the rest of the field to them to get their maximum, like optimal points, their top end points, their boom points. Where I don't. Listen, I'm wrong all the time, but I just don't envision a scenario where you play Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback and you win a tournament.
Yeah, the main thing is he's 5,000 this week.
Yeah,
so
but Baker's like 49. I'd rather play Baker.
Baker's 51, but I also don't. Yeah, I don't have them the same. But yeah, you can stack him up too.
I mean, the stacking with Baker makes way more sense because like you know where it's going to go, and like these guys are actually like good.
Yeah, the problem is that you don't know if
they.
Like I'm saying, if you go Tannehill, Chig. So last week, everybody wanted to play. You could literally build the lineup once all the value came out with Mims and with Likely. And I'm not saying what worked out. That didn't work out. I'm saying once that value came out, people could easily play 2 of the 3 top wide receivers on the slate. So there was lineups with Tyreek, Chase, and Jefferson, all at those 8K price tags. This week doesn't look like that at all. But what ends up happening is people are overpaying for these 7K guys or these from overreactions, or they're trying to make these 6K stacks and 5K stacks at wide receivers work. You could have a spot where you have just Tannehill, Chig, and then even if Kelly was in there, that's fine. If he becomes a good value, there's your 2 owned guys. Tannehill's not, but now you can start to get some of these wide receivers because I just don't know. Like for me,
I just feel like you give up too much if you have Tannehill as your quarterback at the quarterback position where you kind of need that to max out if you want to do well. Like what would you guess is like if we take a look at the 90th percentile projection or the ceiling projection for Ryan Tannehill, what do you think it is?
I don't know. I wouldn't guess, but he played like shit last week and put up 15 DraftKings points.
Yeah, but I mean, that might be as well as he can play.
If he connects with Chig last week on that 50, he's huge. That's all I'm saying. It's just, again, a matter of how you want your construction to go. But I guess my take is this. DK Metcalf and up looks a hell of a lot better than the next range, even though all these stacks that people are building out are including this next range. Everyone's building with these other guys in this 6K and down. Like you've got, if you go back to Pittman, if you talked about your stack with Evans, Higgins, go down here, we got Lockett, Godwin, Ayuk, Debo Samuel. Even it's more so the 5K guys, to be honest, the Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I don't like, outside of Ayuk, maybe Mike Williams, I don't like any of these 5K guys. I think they're all kind of terrible.
Okay, what would you rather? Assuming injuries break our way with Eckler.
Sure, yeah.
And
We'll
Hopkins.
pretend like these guys are out for the moment.
Let's do this one. Tannehill, Kelly, Chig.
Or
Phony Tony, who wasn't that phony, by the way. He came through.
That I want that one. That side.
So him, but it has to be like
Pittman Downs. Or
no, it has to be like Downs and Nico Collins for similar money.
I like that better.
So you'd rather that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because it has Anthony Richardson over Tannehill. And like if I want to try to win, I need a quarterback who can score me 40 points. And I know Phony Tony can.
We can keep the bit going. You know the thing about Phony Tony's, Pat? They seem like they're on your side. They seem solid. And then the next thing you know, boom, turn their back on you. So if Phony Tony does not come through this week, that's not going to be the better stack of those two options.
I mean, we all know the real Phony Tony plays on Kansas City.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That guy's the real Phony Tony.
He's Tony Baloney. Kadarius, baby. Get rid of that guy. Man, he's been bad too. So I don't know.
Let's build out this Anthony Richardson stack. So Phony Tony stacks.
You were already plugging Downs in there a second ago. So he had 7 targets last week.
I like Downs. Like Downs was, until they started rolling and needed to catch up. Like when they were running like their offense, when they were winning earlier on, like it was just a lot of Downs. And I don't know how this backfield's going to shake out. Like I think Zach Moss will get most of the touches, let's just say the plurality of the touches, but there's a chance Richardson carries the ball more than anyone on this team.
Yes.
And like, I don't want any Zach Moss. I don't want any Deion Jackson. Obviously, Brett Hull's son is on IR now, so he's going to be out for a while.
Short season.
Evan, yeah.
The Downs Granson, though, was almost close. It was messing around for a little bit there. He was hitting Granson, too. But yeah, I like this one. You just set it up. Richardson, Downs, and then do you want Collins or Pierce?
I don't know.
Pierce showed up in the tidbits today, too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Like, Collins was good last week.
I like Collins.
Good for Collins.
The other thing about Collins, just looking at it here, and I just had it up, but I went away from it, is Zay Jones, Nakua, Flowers, Atwell, all these guys around him should be more popular because whoever it ends up being, if Nakua's out, it's going to be Atwell. Even if not, probably some mix of that. We know people want to play Zay Flowers after last week. And then, the guy underneath him I just talked about was Zay Jones, who we mentioned as well.
I like these Rams guys. I just don't like any of them this week. I just think it's such a terrible spot, and people are playing them now. Like, they're going to be good when no one wants to play them, and they're cheaper. This just, even though they are 8-point dogs, think about all the throwing. I don't know if Stafford's going to have 2 seconds to throw.
He might just get crushed. Too.
Yeah.
What's San Francisco D price?
They're the most expensive. They're 4,100.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Makes
DraftKings
sense.
knows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Phony Tony, Downs, and Nico Collins.
I like it.
And how much is Pierce?
I think he was...
He's 5,600. So I'd rather the cheapo Nico in that spot. How much is Bobby Trees?
Cheapo Nico. Who did you say? Bobby Trees?
Yeah, he's 40.
I took him out of the pool, I think, already. Is he really getting you something?
No, he's not. He's 40. He did have 10 targets last week.
Yeah.
He's $4,600. So he's a little bit cheaper than Collins if you wanted to keep a Texan on your team. I don't know how great we're doing here with Colts and Texans as our primary stack, but let's try to fill out the rest of this. Do we go...
I think this is a good point, though, before we fill it out, is that people, like, everyone's going to say, oh, look at the total. These guys are idiots. They're building it all. We're building for fantasy points in this. If it could be, 39.5, it can be 26 to 13. Could go under, but that 26 points are on the Indy side between Richardson and Downs going off, and Nico just gets 10 catches for 110 yards, and that just crushes his price tag. I don't care.
Yeah,
we're not game stacking the full-on game stack. We're looking for fantasy points here.
Optimally, what you're looking at, I think, from this, like if this was going to win you something, obviously, Nico Collins could score 2 touchdowns. Let's not just pretend like in a realistic world, what's the stat outcome of this game? It is Nico Collins, like you said, like 8 for 110 and a touchdown. That's a great game. You
they
would
could
take
have 7
that.
points, and he has those. That's how he got there.
Yeah. Downs is like, I don't know, 9 for 74 and a touchdown.
He's like nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy literally costs
He's $3,400. And then Phony Tony is something like, I don't know, 220 passing yards with a touchdown.
He just dances on
and
it.
like 101 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for from this game.
And is that possible?
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
like, you're not asking that much. You're just asking for consolidation
Right.
from both sides. That these are the 3 guys in this game who do something.
And what's funny is I bet you that the majority would agree with you, and I'm fine with them agreeing with you here on this, to say that they like this setup from how you just explained it better than Tannehill, Chig, and Kelly. But that game has a 45.5 point total. So it's not just about the point totals when you're looking at building out these lineups for your fantasy points. This alleviates us from looking for random value plays to say, if this happens, then this works. If this, then that. And now we can fill in whatever we want. We have almost 6,000 average, and we haven't even put a defense in there yet.
So let's put a defense in here. You said you like the Titans as a pay down. I do think that the Cardinals make the most sense. The other one I will throw out. I mean, I still like the Lions at 3,000. That's where I'm going to go with the majority of mine, I think. But the Jets at 2,700.
Yeah, opposite side of Dallas as well. And funny enough, to start the week, I thought that it would be the other way around. Like, I thought the Jets would get the love coming off whatever it was. I know White had crazy situation there. He had his incentive. Did you see that?
Yeah, he needed the 3 picks for the season to get
For the
incentive-
season,
to get
imagine the
incentive.
betting odds of, okay, I'm going to get him coach, owner. I'm going to get him on week 1 against Josh Allen.
Maybe Josh Allen cut it. Maybe he cut Josh in. He's like, Josh, listen,
I don't
got
think
this
Josh
bonus
needs
coming.
the money, man. I don't think so. But yeah, I actually don't hate that. So again, we're right there in that same realm anyway. But the nice thing about them, pivot off of Arizona.
Yeah.
And on the opposite side of Dallas.
Let's just play the Lions because I like the Lions. I'm committed to this Lions bit with both of the tackles on the Seahawks being out. Like they're not going to be able to block.
Okay.
So like all Seahawks kind of bad plays this week in my mind.
Sure. Now, with this said, Pat, like this is the other thing. This lineup is so unique already. You can plug in whatever you want.
Well,
I'm not concerned now about, oh, but that guy is, he's so owned. He's this. That's what people forget too, I think. It's like now the lineup is set up to where you can do whatever you want. You can plug it in. Yeah, I'd look for more correlation because we don't have much in there besides the original stack. It's all we started with. But I'm saying you can get away with just starting to plug things in of what you actually like on this slate. Like you like Christian McCaffrey, you can plug him in. You like Rashad White, you can plug him in. Whatever you want to go with here now, we can go to next. So where are you at?
Pollard.
Okay, so you like
Pollard and A.J. Dillon is where I want to go.
Okay, Pollard and Dillon.
Pollard and Dillon, and I think that Dillon is going to be... Like if everyone just lines up to play either Montgomery or Joshua Kelly, I know he's a bit more expensive. He's $5,900, and it seems like people are going to Connors, who's a bit more expensive. Just I don't see any difference between him if Jones is out, which we are expecting right now, and these other guys. Like there's a world where Joshua Kelly got all that work last week, spelling Austin Eckler because he's the number 2. All of a sudden, Isaiah Spiller is getting half the touches for the Chargers. Like, oh fuck, here we go.
Yeah,
It's not like Kelly was getting that goal line work. They brought in broken ankle Austin Eckler to man the goal line for the Chargers. So we go Pollard and Dillon.
a lot of money now considering what we can do at
We
tight
do,
end.
but we need to figure out what to do. Like, what do we want to do at tight end?
Well, what I want to talk about...
Do you like Kelsey?
He's fine. And we'll probably talk about him in a second anyway with what I'm going to say. But what I was going to say is now, when we're building these out, and what people should be doing as well, especially if they're doing these hand builds or single entries, whatever they're trying to do, I know not everybody plays a lot of lineups, is think about the build versus the field. So what don't we have in here? We have none of that. We have none of that Buffalo game.
And we have no stud receivers.
Right. So is there an Adams Kincaid or an Adams Knox or so? Or can we get an Adams Diggs and then see where we land at tight end?
I mean,
that leaves us with 3,500 at tight end.
If we do Adams Diggs and 3,500 gets you Chig if you want it.
It gets you Zach Ertz because we're not playing James Conner.
Oh, the squirts.
He's fine.
I had him as a top 7 tight end this week.
So what did he? I think he had a lot of targets last
He had
week, right?
like 40. He was the only guy that
10 targets.
Dobbs tried to throw to.
So this is, again, not saying this is the one. It projects 6 points less than our original, but just to show it off, Pat, this is what I'm saying. So you've got Richardson, Downs, Collins. You broke that down great at the beginning. We're playing Dillon instead of the Detroit running back, but we're playing the Detroit D. We don't know which running back it's going to be. We think they're going to pound them. That's fine. That makes sense. We cover that off. We're not playing James Conner or the Arizona D, but we're playing Zach Ertz. And then the most popular game on the slate is probably going to be this Buffalo, Las Vegas, or the most popular stack side.
What's the weather like in Buffalo? Because I know that we're getting a hurricane.
That's true.
I don't know if they're getting a hurricane, but
Should be.
like they probably got a hurricane like today or something like that. Because that's the way that the weather moves. It kind of hits Buffalo, Boston, moves up the coast, then hits us up here.
Chance of light rain. See what it looks like. Some light winds. So we'll see.
I would be... What do you make of if Myers sits? Does Renfro just get all that work?
gosh, is it Renfrow week, man?
I don't know. I mean, it's more likely to be a Renfrow week without Jacoby Myers.
Of course,
around.
yes. I mean, Jacoby was also priced way up this week too, but I think it could just be a Devontae week.
I would tend to agree with you.
So I'd be okay with that. The other thing about this lineup is it just tells you that you're not on the KC Jacksonville game, but we didn't talk about this enough probably at the beginning. It's the same thing I said last year. It's actually become a little bit that way with Lawrence, because with Lawrence you have ETN,
Zay.
They were using Bigsby last week or whatever. They've got Zay, they've got Kirk, they've got Ridley, they've got Ingram. There is other options there where it's not as cut and dry as some of these other stacks. And then on the Kansas City side, we know it's an absolute mess. So what you're hoping for in this build, and why I like it, is that you're hoping that the KC Jacksonville game spreads it out like they can, and it doesn't end up being required in that sense. Even if it gets close to that total, you just have a lot of guys mixing around. That's what you would hope for. And then on the other games, you've got pretty much an angle covered from all the ones you were trying to get involved with. Besides, we didn't talk about Baltimore and Cincy. I guess that's the other one that we should hit on here. It's got a 46.5 point total.
Well, one sec. There is something that I want to do here. So one of the options on Run the Sims that you can do within the optimizer, obviously, is I go into like the stacks for the game. So I just want to run. I've isolated Collins, Downs, and Anthony Richardson as a stack. So I'm just going to build like 50 lineups with just those guys and optimize it that way. And I just want to see how close our lineup is to. It's probably not going to be the same, but
so I'm going to pull all this other stuff out because that was kind of a good one to talk through of why we did it and built it the way we did.
I actually kind of like that lineup.
Yeah, it's nice. And what I'm saying is it makes sense. Everyone's like, oh, it doesn't because you guys are idiots for playing Phony Tony or whatever. But I'm just saying
Is anyone going to say you're an idiot for playing Anthony Richardson?
I would say no, but I would say the argument would be what my original point was. They'll say, why are you guys talking about a 39-point total? And I think that's just wrong for fantasy and where people can make mistakes. If it ends up being a spot where those pieces get there, it just freed us up to have Adams, Diggs, Ertz, guys like this that were getting massive targets that still are in pretty good spots, and in some cases even leverage plays or involvement in games that we'd want to have pieces of on the slate.
All right, try this one on for size. It's not the highest projected, but it's very close.
Same three guys, though, right, to start?
It's Richardson, Downs and Collins.
Okay, go ahead.
So we can go Rashad White and McCaffrey.
Good.
Diggs, Godwin, Knox, and the Cowboys D.
Man, it loves Knox.
It really does. But, I mean, this is a very easy fix if you want to do it because you have $2 in this lineup. You could take McCaffrey out, turn him into Pollard if you wanted to, and play him with Cowboys D, and then you could upgrade Knox to like a tight end you might actually like.
All right, let's see what that looks like. So that one projected about 3 points less than our original. Obviously, you're still playing in optimals, and that just goes to show, again, where these little mini stacks, like what we talked about with Downs and Collins, where it can still work because it's getting you everything else that you were looking for. So let's plug in Pollard.
You say Knox is $3,100?
$3,100, yeah.
Is there any other $3,100? I just wonder why it likes Knox so much.
Baby. We could just plug in Granson at 3,000. Finish it out.
There you go. You guys have a 3-man Colt stack coming at you.
Granson, and who was the other guy we said? If we go back, it was $8,900 McCaffrey. Oh, wow. This allows you to upgrade the Dallas defense to the 49ers, Pat.
Okay, well.
Look at that puppy. So Richardson.
This one doesn't project as well, but just punch this one in because I'm just looking at the lineups that are here, and this one just kind of stuck out to me.
Okay.
Phony, Tony, Downs, and Collins.
Sure.
Rashad White and ETN as the running backs.
Okay, let me swap that. ETN is going in. He is, what, 6,900 this week? Yep, good.
Amon-Ra as a receiver. Dawson Knox is the tight end.
It's fine.
McCaffrey is the flex. And Tampa Bay D is the D.
I like the Tampa Bay D. 8,900 here. We got $100 left over. That projects only 1.5 points less than the original.
I just like that. I mean,
much lower ownership too.
Much lower ownership, and just objectively looking at it, I like it better. You know, like there's ones you can squeeze in here that have like Javonte. Do you like Javonte Williams at all?
It's probably fine, to be honest. We didn't talk a lot about him, but I do think
I just don't like that game.
If you got Denver doing something against Washington, I think he'd be
how much is Washington's D? Like now, this week, I'm interested in Washington's defense.
3,100.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Lions D better, but it might not be a bad time to jump back on them against this shit Denver team.
So let me just see here. If I go...
you know what the move might be?
I think I had it, but go ahead.
It's just to, instead of playing any of these Bills, just play Bills D.
Play Bills D?
Yeah, instead of trying to figure out which tight end is going to be the guy, or if it's a Gabe Davis game, or Deontay Harty gets involved, like, nah, just play the Bills D.
I like Kincaid more. And if you go back to that same lineup we just had, you can swap Knox and Amon-Ra for Devontae Adams, Kincaid. So.
Okay, I like that better, actually.
There's stuff you can do. I mean, San Francisco, LA, what's the other thing you could do? Let's see if I can get Kelsey in here.
Oh, you can get Kelsey. You can do Kelsey this way. You don't need to punch this in, but here's the lineup with Kelsey. Ready? It's Tony, Nico, and Downs, Rashad White and McCaffrey, Zay Jones and Kelsey, Javonte Williams, and Tampa Bay D, which is an easy fix for me because I don't love Javonte this week, and he's $600. Spend up $300 to get to AJ Dillon, and then take away the Tampa D, and you can get down to they're $3,200.
That's Tampa, yeah.
They're Tampa. Then you can get down to Cardinals or Jets if you want to.
What was the first version of it you said though? It was Anthony Richardson, Downs, Collins, Kelsey, Zay Jones.
This one that we're talking about
the
right
original version before you swapped it around. You said Rashad White,
McCaffrey,
yeah,
Downs, Zay, Nico,
yeah.
Kelsey, Javonte, Buxty with Anthony Richardson.
Javonte. How much is Javonte this week?
$5,600.
So that's that. Okay, so this is the other thing. So that's fine, but also Pierce
fits in that as well.
But then you only have you got two on the other side and not that. What's the other indie guy that we liked?
Pittman's at 61.
Yeah, you can't really change it around as much.
No. What you could do is get rid of the defense and then go to Arizona D, and then all of a sudden you have more money.
I'm just trying to see if I can get one of your classic 5-man game stacks here.
That's where I think it would be different. Like with a 39-point total, that I don't think that's the game that I would want to onslaught. I'm trying to, like you were kind of saying, guys are going to score fantasy points. Yeah. I don't know if 5 guys can score a bunch of fantasy points.
Yeah, but if they do, that would be good. But I'm with you. Yeah, I'm not in on that either. So, yeah, I think the original version you had of it was definitely the best.
So let's go to the highest total game. I think that only makes the most sense. We didn't walk through that last week we made some Herbert stacks. I don't think we actually made any Tua stacks last week, which is kind of funny considering that's Tua Hill, skinny stack with.
That's all you need. If you just said that
or
with
Smythe.
Eckler. Yeah, you could have added in Smythe if you want to go.
Or my guy. I mean, Cuss' biggest rival in the NFL, River Craycraft. Cuss hates him.
Yeah.
So, of course, he was going to catch a touchdown. So, do you want to do it from the Jacksonville side, or do you want to do it from the Kansas City side? Because we don't like playing Kansas City Mahomes stacks.
I don't like playing Mahomes ever on main slates.
All right, so
I just don't care. I know he's up there. He's expensive. He is for a reason. But if he spreads it out too much or anything like that, you want to dedicate a lot of your lineups to that. So I like the other side.
All right, so let's go with Trevi.
Yeah.
Trevi at 67.
I think
Zay and Ridley?
I think it's like Zay and Ingram.
Okay.
Because, again, you could say it's getting too cute or whatever, and Ridley's the guy, but it's like, again, could that be an overreaction? Yes, and he goes up to 7,200. Now, I know other people say he's going to get to 8K soon. He's just going to keep using him, and that's fine. And have some lineups with him. If you're using Trevor Lawrence, you should definitely have Ridley in those stacks. For what we're doing here, I don't mind it. And then I think the interesting thing would be, Pat, is you could go double tight end with Kelsey, because Kelsey's basically a wide receiver one anyway, and he's 7,600 versus Ridley is 7,200. So you're filling out a flex spot with your tight end that's similar to the price of the receiver you're fading on the other side.
So there it is. Let me run some optimals with those 4. Lawrence, Zay, Ingram, Kelsey.
Yeah, and I think also just some of the guys you could plug in too. You like A.J. Dillon?
I do like A.J. Dillon. So the most optimal lineup with those guys are those 4 with Mixon and Montgomery, Puka, Debo, Colts D. I hate this lineup.
Okay, so wait. So Mixon, Montgomery, Nakua?
Yeah.
Which could get canceled out. Who was the other guys? Colts D?
It was Colts D and Debo.
Okay, this is not what we're looking for, but I'm going to quickly do this. Colts D and Debo. Yeah, at 5,600. He's going to be the most popular there anyway. So that one comes out 1 point less than our original quote-unquote optimal build. Okay. So get out David Montgomery, get out Mixon, get out Nakua, get out Debo, get out Indianapolis back to where we started. Now let's do the Pat version, which is who? A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, so there's actually one that has A.J. Dillon in it. So we can go with A.J. Dillon. James Cook was the running back, which is like the one piece of the Bills game that you would have would be James Cook, which I think is pretty good leverage over everyone using Allen and Diggs.
Of course it is. I was going to say that earlier where we didn't have that. That was another thing you could have done to use it.
But you don't necessarily need to, like, if you're looking for money later on, like you can just turn James Cook into Josh Kelly and save $1,100.
Yeah, I do like, again, that game has a big total, but Buffalo big favorites at home, probably don't play as bad as they did game one. I think that's a good way to get action in this game when people are clearly focused on Diggs, the two tight ends, and all the builds are focused on that. What people are spitting out is not focusing on James Cook for the most part.
So this gives us the opportunity to have two wide receivers. $5,600 is the average total that we have left. Problem is, we just kind of spoke about how we hate all these $5,000 receivers. So
What D did you plug in?
Lions.
All right, yeah, we're sticking with that. I like
Just
it.
$3,000.
Yeah, it's fine. I like it.
So we could do something like go downs and then pay up, or we're in this like Ayuk and I don't know.
I think again though, like we need to think about the slate. We've now attacked the highest total game with the 51 points, which is solid.
And then we have James Cook as our bill, and we have Lions D as our lion.
And so of those other two popular games, we've got James Cook as sort of a leverage to the passing game there because we're going heavy on the passing game in the first one. That makes sense. Detroit, we're saying instead of let everybody else figure shit out, we're just going to play Detroit D. And they might actually smash. So yeah, that's fine. And then of the other games, I guess San Francisco, LA would be how we want to handle it. And so if you go to Ayuk instead of the Debo chalk, you end up with 5,400 left.
For a receiver only, though, because we've used Kelsey as our flex.
Yeah, is there
And that's like Lazard, Sutton, Myers. Like Myers probably not playing. Brendan Cook's probably not playing. Kirk and Bateman, who were like...
Wow. I wish Myers was playing.
Yeah, Myers would be perfect for him.
He would literally fit perfect and be the cross piece to James Cook in that game and just finish it out.
Is there anyone up top here? Be it... I don't know. No, we don't want to lock it. Like Mike Williams at 57. Like we can make that work, but I don't love Mike Williams. Although it might be a good week to play him.
Mike Williams. I'm just thinking too now.
We can put in Mike Williams and we can drop Lions D down to 2,700 and go with the Jets D because we don't have any Cowboys.
I like that. So what does that do? So Jets D.
So it just leaves us with Ayuk and Williams as one-off plays and that the high fives as our other two wide receivers with the Lawrence stack with Kelsey on the way back.
Ayuk and Williams. Okay, I had one more thought. I'm going to look at it here real quickly for us because now we'll go back to what we always say. Like, okay, well, you wanted to see the Ridley version? Take out Zay, take out Williams, take out Ayuk. We'll plug in whatever D after, but let's leave Dillon and Cook. And let's plug in Ridley. And then we're missing that San Fran game, right? Is like at least something from that. So it would be maybe picking a defense or picking off a spot, but let's just see what the cheap D, like the Tennessee defense, 46.50. Is there another San Francisco receiver that we could use here?
We can't use Kittle because we have a tight end and a flex tight end.
Yeah, no, we can't do that. I'm just thinking about, I'm under the wrong thing here. Wide receiver. What about if we go back to this too? Your guy, Renfro, who you mentioned earlier. Oh, we're so close.
Renfro's 3,900.
Yeah, I was gonna plug him in for the cross with Cook to get more of that game, and then see if I could land on Ayuk to have a piece there. But we would need cheaper defense, and I don't have it. And we're already down to 2,400, so it's not going to work there either. The Ridley thing does make it much tougher. What if we do this? What if we plug Kelsey? What if we go Zay Jones with Ridley?
Okay.
And keep Kelsey in at the tight end position and go away from Ingram. Now it leaves us 5,500 in the flex, which is Rashad White. That lineup actually isn't bad, Pat. So you'd have Lawrence, Ridley, Zay Jones with Kelsey. You've got Dillon instead of the Detroit side, and then you've got James Cook with a secondary stack with Renfro, assuming Jacoby Myers is out, and you land on Rashad White and the Tennessee defense.
Okay.
I don't know what else you can do with it, unless you have something else you like instead.
No, that's pretty good.
Tampa Bay, James Cook. Yeah, you could do a few more things. Who's the other D we liked is Detroit. Let me just see how that one landed.
Yeah, that one's just a bit too expensive, I believe.
And we had in Dillon with James Cook.
I mean, is there a Falcon you would play that's not Bijan?
No, I think it would be one of the running backs there. I mean, I guess Algier, you could try him out again.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I know. I'm just saying if you wanted to, I think you could.
All right, let's pick one more. Actually, I want to give away the $500. Thank you to everyone who left an audio review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify on the Pat Mayo Experience. Subscribed and downloaded. It means a lot to me, especially this time of year. We're trying to get those numbers, bump up that ad revenue so we can continue to do more shows for you. And I've added 2 extra shows in the Pat Mayo Experience rotation this football season. And I'm going to continue covering golf with Jeff throughout the swing season as well. So stuff like that really helps in being able for us to provide you more content. So the $500 winner is Benny Rhymes, who left a very nice review. His only appointment podcast. Cannot say enough good things about the podcast. Well, that sort of review is going to get you. At least, he won $500. So get you $500. Thank you, Benny, for doing that. He said that it's been a part of his weekly listening for years. So hopefully he's listening to this show and figures it out. I'll send him a DM anyway. But congratulations, and we'll try to figure out some more cool giveaways. Maybe around Halloween, maybe around Thanksgiving. We'll see.
$100 5 times for Benny Rhymes. Gotta love it. Take it.
One more.
What do you want?
I don't know. What do you want? Let's stack up one more game.
Burrow.
Really?
Listen, here's the thing. We all loved it last week against
we
Cleveland.
did.
Now
Yeah,
we go
we
back
did.
into Cincy. Baltimore didn't look that good, by the way, and they're my team, and I love them, my favorite squad. But
They look bad.
They look bad. They look bad, and Philly looked bad, but they both still got the job done. Now, what if this is the case here? Even Cincy looked bad. Well, Cincy could bounce back this week, and we get a little back and forth. There's lots of options in this game, but it's still pretty condensed.
What do you want to do?
I think I want Burrow with Irv Smith,
With Irv, Big Irv?
and then pick one of Chase or Higgins.
Did Irv do anything last week?
Doesn't matter.
I'm just asking. Like, I
5
really...
targets, 3 catches, not much.
Okay.
3,200 though. I like the pivot off of the other cheap. He splits the difference on Kincaid and Knox.
I suppose that's true.
So I'm putting James Cook in this lineup. You've already got me on that idea.
Well, do you want a running back or a wide receiver for Baltimore?
Wide receiver.
For sure?
Yes.
All right. So
Because my idea is we're going Irv over Andrews, or let whatever people make the decision there. Like whatever Andrews does, we'll see. But
do you want Zay, Beckham, or Bateman?
God, man, Zay is $5K, and I think he's like he's going to get played anyway, right? Even at $5K. I thought at the start of the week he wasn't going to be as popular. So should we try Bateman?
No. He barely played.
It's week 1 overreaction, Pat.
Beckham.
All right, let's go. Bend it like Beckham.
Let's do Beckham. I'll run some optimals on that and see what we end up with.
How much is he? 47. I don't mind it, yeah.
So here you go. Burrow with Rashad White and James Cook.
Okay. I like this starting point. Let's go.
And then all like Beckham, Irv, Chase are in there.
Chase went in, okay.
Yeah. Godwin and James Conner with Colts D.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, you can move Godwin.
I'm putting Tampa Bay D in with Rashad White here.
And you could probably drop Godwin to Ayuk if you wanted to.
But now we got 6,250. So now I'm thinking about what game am I missing. So now it's like, okay, if I go Zay.
Lions game.
Yeah. I think I got it here. Yeah, look at this lineup.
Okay. Hit me.
Burrow, Chase, Irv, Beckham on the other side, Rashad White with the Tampa Bay defense, James Cook for the leverage off the Josh Allen stacks, finish it out with Zay Jones, Travis Kelce. Pretty good.
Game on.
That's not bad. And then if you drop Jamar to
Higgins,
which I always want to see because, I mean, he had 8 targets and put up a 0 last week. Oh, baby. Do we got it? No, we do not. Sorry, I got excited. Damn, we're short. I thought it was going to let us get Ridley across from Kelce there for a second. Let's try that, though. Actually.
well, who are the 2 running backs in there?
Oh, baby, yes.
It
It's
was
Tennessee, the D I like. So you swap it out. It goes Chase, Zay Jones, and Tampa Bay defense for Higgins, Ridley, and Tennessee defense.
All right, so it's Burrow, Higgins.
Yep.
Burrow, Higgins, Irv
Yep.
with Odell. It's Rashad White and the Tampa D, you said?
No, it's Rashad White and the Tennessee D.
Or the Tennessee D, sorry. And then you can get
James Cook instead of anything with Allen's side of things on that popular stack, and then you land on Ridley and Kelce to round it out.
Okay.
This has a lot of action in it too, because especially if Kelly becomes popular, let's say Eckler's out, Kelly becomes popular, the Tennessee D is leveraging that. I guess what you're missing in this is the Detroit-Seattle game, and you're missing the San Francisco-LA game, but you can't fit them all in. I mean, that's the thing. And also, we're off the board here. I mean, we're on to the Baltimore-Cincy game, which still has a decent total. I'm just saying we're moving to something else, but I think that they're condensed enough. What do you see?
I almost was able to turn James Cook into A.J. Dillon and Beckham into Zay Flowers, but I'm $100 short.
Yeah, that's what happens. I don't know who else it would be. It's tough. That's what I mean. But the other thing, I saw this one. I didn't include it in the
How much is Gus?
I don't even know.
53.
He ain't popping, though. I can tell you that.
All right, he's going to have a classic like 12 for 34 and 2 touchdowns. That's his game.
Man. Let's take out Odell. Take out Kelsey. How much is he?
Who?
Bus.
Oh, he's 5,300. I mean, if I was going to rejig this, I'd get rid of Irv and play Andrews and get rid of Beckham and then figure out putting Josh Downs or something.
I just wanted to see if you did
Although I don't even think that works.
Devontae Adams doesn't work, but then you go Higgins to Chase.
Kelsey as our tight end.
Ooh, what about this one? Actually projects better, too. Burrow, Jamar Chase, Irv Smith with Gus Edwards, Rashad White, James Cook across from Devontae Adams, Christian Kirk, you got to take the shot on, bouncing off of last week, and then you land on the rest. Tennessee D.
Can you use Ingram instead of Christian Kirk?
I already have Irv in there.
Yeah.
I could take him out and plug somebody else.
But you have Kelsey in, don't you?
Not anymore. No, I have to take him out too. So
It
got worse. Gus is a maybe play. If, like you said, if he can get those 2 touchdowns for you, he'd be in play.
You're probably better off just using Kelly.
Yeah, someone else.
All right, that'll do it. Pat Mayo Experience. What do you guys got coming this weekend at Ship It Nation?
A lot, actually. Yeah, we just put out a 5-day trial. So $19.
Like you've put people on trial for 5 days?
No, not quite. But a lot of people did hit us up and say they couldn't check out the site or they weren't sure if they wanted to commit to a full month or something like that. So for $19, shipitnation.com. It's just a one-time trial. It's not a weekly or a renewal, anything like that. You can check out the site. No Discord. You miss out on the community aspect, but you get to see all the tools, content, projections, ownership, all of that stuff that you might want. See what we're all about. Shipitnation.com. This week it'll be MMA, PGA Showdown, baseball, MLB, of course, as always, and then all the NFL. That'll get you through well past all Sunday Night Football, and Monday Night Football also.
All right, shipnation.com, code MAYO to get yourself 10% off if you want to get one of their packages. Ditto for Run the Sims. You just want the tools. That's all you want. Make your own projections. Adjust it. runthesims.com/Mayo will get you 10% off any of the packages up there right now. Smash like and sub to the channel. Congratulations again to Benny Rhymes for leaving those reviews. Just because there's no giveaway doesn't mean you shouldn't leave the reviews, because that would just be really nice. And thank you for filling the Listeners League so quickly. Hopefully we can get that going back up to 3,500 or 4,000 people into week 3. We'll keep you notified on that. And I'll be back on Saturday with an update on all the injuries once we get a clear vision of what's happening on the weekend. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!